I'll call this meeting to order. Please raise your pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greetings to all. First off, I see we have a lot of visitors, but one in particular I'd like to call notice to. We have a mayor here, another mayor, but she's not from the USA. She is from out in near Montreal. Oops. Ontario, excuse me. I've asked her to keep me straight whatever I do. So her name is Mary Smith, and she has brought some business cards and would like to share them with any of the council members that would like. And also she has been so kind to bring a couple different pens. They have a county ship up there, and it's one of the pens is this one here. And we'll hand out why those last. And the other thing is she has the actual township pen itself. So she also gave me one pin for the police department, and I have already passed it to Mill and asked him to pass it to the chief of police. And so we'd like to welcome. And by the way, she said that she was scheduled for a meeting tonight, council meeting tonight, and she came to ours instead. long travel. Okay, first off, did the warrants go around? And did I miss them? Okay, they've been around already?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll catch them after. Does anybody have any questions on the warrants? Okay, next item would be going to the Vergennes City Council meeting, April 10th, 2012. I'd ask for a motion to approve. Randy makes the motion. Do I have a second? And Rennie seconds it. Open for omissions, corrections, or errors? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Budget review. Budget report. Mel, anything in particular?
Yeah, Mike, we're obviously getting near the end of April with just 2 months left, and so you can actually start to predict where things are gonna, how things are gonna pan out by the end of the year. Obviously, all of our insurances have been paid for the year. We pay those on a quarterly basis, so if you see any of those that are at 100% or slightly over those numbers relative to workers' compensation, property insurance, and liability insurance, those expenses are done. I can tell you that the revenues do look pretty good. I think earlier in the year I expressed some concern about the fact that the city took it a little bit on the chin with the pilot money. We budgeted $70,000, only collected a little under 67, and there's no additional money there. But there's lots of other revenues that are in very good shape. Interest earnings on our investments, what I call SIN money, ticket revenue is in considerably high. So I think we're in pretty good shape. And actually, last year we did not do very well relative to delinquent tax collections. The way that our system works on this modified accrual basis, we're allowed to count delinquent tax collections for the first 60 days into our new fiscal year, and we did really poorly last year. We were in great shape in the 2 years prior, but really took more than one step backwards last year, and I'm hoping that we will improve that condition at the end of August, which obviously I think at the end of August of 2011 we had about $50,000 or $52,000 on the books, and anything that we do better than that this year goes right to our bottom line. The year before, our so-called deferred taxes were only like $16,000, which I don't want to say that was too good, but when you do have delinquencies real low, if you can't maintain it, it only hurts you in the years going forward. But I am hopeful that we'll do as good or better than the prior years. One of the things I wanted to, when you see down under grants and non-budget revenue of some $400,000, keep in mind that that's not really extra money. There's a corresponding set of expenses that will actually balance those out. So every dollar that shows up under grants and non-budget will end up showing under on the expense side. So don't think that there's an extra $400,000 that's come in. That's not really the case. On the expense side, I can tell you, administration is in good shape. Public Works is in just ridiculously good shape this year. The sewer fund is in very good shape. Revenues are right on track. We're in good shape. Again, I won't see any need to see any increased rates in sewer. Police continues to be the concern. I can tell you that we have worked real hard. I mean, that department dug itself a bit of a hole in the first 6 months, and we've just tried desperately to manage our expenses. I can tell you it's really extremely fortunate that we ended up with this COPS grant that covered Adam O'Neill's wages going back to September 1, and it wasn't just his wages, but any overhead. And we've already applied for some money. That's why you're seeing this COPS grant revenue that showed up in I was going to say Jones' account. Send him Jones' account a few days ago. So anyway, I think that other than I do expect the police department budget to go over budget, and we're still in a little bit of damage control, but overall I feel pretty good. Zig?
So like on the information technology, budget was 4,000, it was actual 8,365, so we're catching up on some stuff, so next year that would kind of take up our upgrade, so this would be only done, like a one-shot deal, so then we're
some of those items in information technology are outright purchases, but there is our photocopier, it comes out of that line item. Internet technology is really the line item that gets used for anything that's computer or information technology related. So it covers the lease payments on our computer equipment, any annual software expenses, the lease payments on any photocopying. I think actually our internet Comcast lines would come out of that line. It's really anything that is information technology related. So I would not say that when you see that line, I would not say that things are going to disappear in next year's budget. They really are all ongoing expenses.
So this budget,
I think in the police, on the other hand, I believe that those were problem related, where they had problems with their system, had to bring Mike Fort in to do work on their computer. So, but I would not expect that to be at this $8,000 level, year after year after year. I wouldn't expect that.
Any other questions, Mel? Okay.
One thing I want to know is about street lights. I mentioned to you that the Green Mountain Power, even though they have not replaced all of our street lights with LED, they are billing us as if they did. And that street light budget is it's okay. No, it's not an issue. Well, actually, don't tell CDPS, because CDPS doesn't know that
they are changing them. They have done my street, and it's like a different world out there.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I looked out my bedroom window onto the neighbor's house and I thought, God, that moon is coming from a different angle tonight. What's going on? And it wasn't until the next morning that I had realized they had put the new LED street light up. And now when I go out to get the paper, I don't need to turn on the outside light.
They've got to be close to half done, I would think, Mike. I've noticed around town where there's this street, because obviously, they do this in between their other projects, mm-hmm. and that's really why Green Mountain Power made arrangements to go ahead and bill us according to what will end up on the polls, so that we deserve, we we applied for this thing, and it should have been done really by last fall. So it equals about $11,000 a year savings when all is said and done, so,
Great, thanks.
and the lighting is better, so.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Any other questions, Mel, related to budget item? If not, if anybody is here for the park usage policy, we'd ask that they hold their comments to that section. I will allow it at that time. But if there is someone here for public comment about other issues that are not presently on the agenda, I'd ask you to stand and speak now. Hearing none. Joan, one thing I forgot to do, I've asked Mary to stop by City Hall, and if you would, make sure one of those bottles of Vergennes wine makes it into her hand. Okay, all right, go to committee reports. If you have anything, I'd ask you to keep it brief. With the other issues on the agenda, we're gonna be rather busy tonight. So, anything to report? Joe?
Recreation Committee had a meeting 2 weeks ago, Saturday morning, just a brief meeting to review last year, make some plans for the year.
Okay, good. Siggy?
I've had a request by some of the people that over at the senior housing would like to see another senior housing built immediately. Okay.
That request was put in plus one.
Okay.
So actually, we
Including where
hinted two.
where the barn came down, they'd
Yep.
like to see both places.
one of the issues is financing. If
I
they
know.
can have some pull with the finance, that would be the biggest thing. I'm sure one could definitely go up. As to a third one, one more could go up, but a third one, we'd have to talk to our zoning administrator to see.
Not a problem.
So, okay, great. Randy, anything?
Nope, nothing to report.
Randy, you haven't had a committee yet, but thank you for your help on the other part that we're gonna be coming to here in a minute. Okay, first, we'll go to old business and move right along here. 6A, police station alternative ranking. Ziggy, did you have some more conversation with Mel about?
Yes,
Yep.
we,
Okay.
Yep.
So,
I'll let you go ahead first.
we'll open that up for discussion. I'm not gonna ask for a motion, because I don't think it's gonna get settled tonight as to where we're going, so I'm just gonna open it up.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, obviously, the conflict of interest policy is relatively new for all of us. It's was adopted a little bit before town meeting day and then reaffirmed at the last meeting. And, you know, Zig and I have talked about this, and I think both of us agree that, you know, not only Ziggy, but the rest of the board hasn't been following that policy right to a T. And I think the reason is because we end up overlooking the obvious. You know, everybody knows that Ziggy Como owns one of the buildings on the police ranking. And by rights, what Ziggy is supposed to do is to disclose the fact that she owns this building that everybody knows that she owns, and it's on the list. And then, once she discloses that, Ziggy has the right to say either I'm gonna recuse myself from all discussion, or she could take the position of feeling as if, you know, that she, although she has that conflict, she feels that she can represent the citizenry, you know, relative to the ranking of these sites. So Zig and I had a conversation today, and I just want to get ahead. I wanted to talk to you about that, but I also want to get ahead just a little bit, and to tell you what I'd like to see us be able to do tonight. And basically, we started out with 13 sites. We're down to 8 sites, and I really think that the 8 sites need to be, in essence, split up into 2 groups, and the groups would be split up into sites that obviously we'd be looking at building a new building, and sites that more than likely, if not obviously, would be looking at renovating an existing structure. All right. So what I'd like to be able to do tonight would be to possibly eliminate some sites from this, and at the same time, you know, making sure that we do have some sites in both groups. Relative to relative to Ziggy, Ziggy would like, I don't want to totally speak for Ziggy, but Ziggy would like to be able to speak relative to sites that clearly involve building a new building. And but at the same time, she understands that really she shouldn't be, she should recuse herself when the city council is talking about buildings that would need to be renovated. Now, how we can pull this off in one swoop, I guess, I think that we can. If the city council could possibly tonight agree to get rid of 2 or 3 sites and then break them up into the 2 groups. And what I'd like to do is, if you got that far, what I would, if you got that far tonight, I would invite George to come in, and George and I would like to speak to the board about what our preferences might be. So one of the things when I look at the second ranking, and obviously even though as you all know, this process straddled the town meeting, and so we have rankings supplied by Lowell and in an earlier ranking by David. But whether or not you pull that ranking out or leave it in there, it's pretty clear in the police station site ranking 2 on the bottom. When you look at when you look at the state of Vermont, that property is not ranking well. All right, so that's one thing that the board might consider dropping that. Relative to the sites, and now you break it up into sites that would involve clearly a new building. Obviously the land off New Haven Road, it would be, is a undeveloped property. The Vermont Industrial Parks, which is next to Velco, is undeveloped property. So
The remaining are all one that would require,
For all intents and purposes, CH Mann would have
CH
to be
Mann,
demolished, I would expect.
well, one of the things, let me just talk to you briefly about CH Mann. And CH Mann, as Bill said, when you go over there, it probably isn't anything there enough that would be salvaged. I think it may very well be a total tear down approach. The other thing about CH Mann is that most, if not all, of the property associated with CH Mann is on leased land of the railroad. And I can tell you, I'm not wild about having, in essence, permanent infrastructure of the city being on leased land. And I mean, I've never talked to Vermont Railway about that, but typically, it's just not typical for a municipality to be on leased property. City's gonna, let's city invest $1 million on somebody else's property, and then you negotiate some kind of a lease, and then the lease comes up, and now you're faced with renegotiating that. So I just don't like, if the city could buy the property, obviously I'd be fine with that, but just personally, I don't like having municipal infrastructure on land that's owned by somebody else. Just not.
I think if you could get a 99-year lease, something that is almost in perpetuity, it could work out fine. If you're looking at a 10 or 20 or 30-year lease, I would say I agree with you, Mel. I think it's worth a phone call.
Okay.
You're right.
my concern with is where it lies in the zone. That
Yes.
It's a very unsafe, Kennedy Brothers is there, it lays in the same zone, but trains do have accidents. As a matter of fact, there was one there in that area, probably approximately 100 years ago.
Really?
Yes.
So we're due.
Close to.
You weren't around during that time, were you?
Yes, I was, but I didn't want to talk to anybody.
So
My
it's
father told me about
Yeah,
that.
so, I mean, it's possible, does CH Mann based on what Mike's saying and about whether or not we can have a long-term lease, you know, does that property have a fatal flaw? I mean, that's what that's the question is, and if there's a majority of the board that feels that it has a fatal flaw, then it's off the list. If not, then, you know, maybe it doesn't, so.
Do we know what is the cost of the lease?
I do not know what the cost is.
Randy?
I kinda tend to agree with Mel about putting public money into a lease situation and the cost of, tearing down the building, let alone everything else we're gonna have to do.
If you're gonna look at tearing that building down, you gotta look at all the ones that would require some form of construction. You can't just single that one out, cause there's other ones you'd have to do some real major involvement. Anything that's made of a wood structure, you're gonna have to retrofit with cement block in some areas, because I'm sure that they're gonna want some form of a holding cell or cells. They have to have a secure, sally port that they're gonna drive into, which would require some sort of a block wall. So once you start adding things like that in, you've got some major, so it's part of the overall picture you need to be aware of.
Is that mandatory to have a garage to drive into?
I would
In
say
most,
so.
in most police barracks type setup, they have what they call a sally port. Part of the danger area is when you're transferring a prisoner from the cruiser to the booking station, and you want to make sure that that person just can't get out of there. They're secured into that
Well, I
area.
understand that, and I'm just wondering, being the small city of Vergennes, I've had many people ask me that, so I'm just mentioning.
Small, no matter how big or small, we can't take that like into part of the picture. It's gotta be what is right and safe for our residents and safe for the police officers that are trying to deal with this. So we can't worry about how big or how small we are. We wanna do what's right and do it right the first time.
Just looking at the second series of rankings, I guess I would make a proposal that we delete the bottom two existing buildings, the Claricoma building and then the Northlands Job Corps buildings. No, was that land or buildings at Northlands? Was that the vacant state buildings?
It's the building,
Okay.
one of those.
I would delete those two and I would put the CH man on probation, let's call it, until we can determine that lease situation. But I guess I would lean towards taking that off as well.
I'll
And then
second
down
that.
to 5.
I agree. I'll second that.
Me too.
So Bill, that's a motion to remove those
Sure,
bottom
yep.
two. And Joe made the motion, or second the motion. Open for further discussion. Will that get you where you need to go?
Can I just clarify, were we removing man or just putting them on notice?
Well, I guess I'd like a little more information, so I think maybe it's worth a phone call, and the next meeting we can decide that fairly easily.
Okay, so the only two that are being removed is State of Vermont and Ziggy's building. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor?
Yeah,
Whoops,
I
you have some more discussion.
Yeah, I just have one discussion, and it's about Kennedy Brothers. Kennedy Brothers, that building is probably 35,000 square feet, okay? So I'm trying not to use tone, all right? But obviously, we don't need 35,000 square feet. So the thing that I wonder about is obviously the Kennedy Brothers would either be a rental or it would be cohabitation
Or it could be condo.
or condo, okay? So, I just throw that out there that one is different.
Yeah.
It is different from that.
How big is Deniker? I mean, that's,
Deniker is about 9,000, something like that, 9 or
I
11.
know it didn't
9.
approach 35, but
It's
it's
not, yeah.
pretty good size.
But it's the same size as my building, 9,000 square feet, I think.
Right.
So, I know you weren't trying to indicate tone, but
I try not to.
But if one were to perceive the fact that maybe because of the size, it could be his, if he wanted to, he could amend his motion to include Kennedy Brothers, or where?
You know, I'm not.
It's Bill's motion, he can do what he wants. You want to leave it in there for now, Bill?
I would, only because I realize that we don't need 35,000 square feet. I'm trying to be creative and thinking maybe you could take a part of that building, there's land there, there's parking there, you could build a sally port onto it. I think it should stay in the mix for at least another round.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
So
Mel,
now
I guess
that's over with, so I don't have to worry about that.
So you're not-
I'm
you're,
done.
you're,
You have no
Yeah.
more conflict of interest?
Right.
conflict of interest.
Yeah, you can actually you can vote against yourself, Zig, if you
Yeah,
want.
okay. I do that all the time.
Okay, so this will be back on the next agenda, and
I'll try to get information about, more information about CH-Man.
see about George at that one, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, proposed city green policy. For those that haven't, a updated policy went out on the web, I believe it was Saturday or Sunday. Again, we're not looking for action on it tonight.
Updated one.
We're biting off little bits, pieces, we're getting more information, we got some more input.
Okay, so it's there.
Sometime today, I threw that out to the council, and I didn't even have time to, or didn't make time to, make copies of those. I meant to do that and bring them to tonight's meeting, but again, when you get home tonight, check your emails and you will see some more ideas, and I don't know if Bill's had a chance to read those, and Mel.
Quickly.
Yeah, so we've got to give that some additional thought as to whether it needs to be incorporated or not. So, kind of wondering, I'm gonna, again, without a motion, I'm gonna open this up for discussion and comments. And so, anybody want to go first here on the council before I open it up to the floor? If I can find the thing. I'm gonna ask Rennie to speak to one particular area, but, go ahead, Rennie, you had some area.
Article 1, the special use part. I know someone had emailed, and it might have been the emails that we got this afternoon, about why we would have the listing of the already approved. And I agree that I don't think we need to have the listing of the already approved. Many of those listed on there, I think, would rank by many people as actually city events. I mean, the Vergennes City band concerts, they do it for nothing, but we buy them, we've bought them their music, and I mean, essentially, we support them. The farmers market has always come in every year to ask for permission to be on the green anyhow. We have something this evening, and I guess we've started to even give them a little bit of support towards having the farmers market there. French Heritage Day, Vergennes Day, Pumpkins in the Park, Holiday Stroll. Obviously, the Chamber of Commerce is really involved in those, but I look at those as city events. I don't think we have to give anybody permission or approve anything. Those can just go on the calendar year after year, and that's where they're at. So I don't really think we need to have that list.
One of the reasons why that were put on there, Rennie, is just to give an outsider help clarification, so that they had some sort of an idea. If you get a new person moving into town, they won't know that information, and so we just wanted to see how we could really make it black and white here, but, you know, by all
You can
means.
always put a list there, not necessarily that it has to be approved or anything, that just so people know when it occurs. Then I might as well go through all of them.
Sure, go ahead.
While
Yep.
I've got the floor. In Article 2, displays, I just wanted to change a little bit of the wording. Down in the third line, it goes, allows private and public organizations or individuals to use the city green for public expression. I would recommend taking the words "for public expression" out, and just for use of the city green. It is public expression. I don't think we have to inspire it, that it's public expression. I'm a little hesitant on the whole paragraph, actually, but if we're gonna keep the paragraph in, I'd like to take those words out. Then, when we go into the listing, the 1 through 7 listing of requirements, in the first paragraph's second line, I'd take out the word "private." So it would just, actually, in the first line, take out the word "annually." Because I think we're thinking about just the creche, but now this is applying to a whole bunch of things. People may not be doing anything annually. They may be just one shot deal. So if we take out the word "annually" and take out the word "private" in that sentence, then I'd leave the rest of it. And then again, responding to someone's question in the emails about, well, can you have multiple displays at the same time, and what about who gets what location? So I added a line, and I don't know whether I'll just go through the line, and I've got it written. If you like what it says, then I'll give it to Joan. It says, to avert conflicts with display locations, locations will be assigned on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you put in that line, it implies that you can have multiple displays, and how they get their location is the first one to ask for a particular location gets the location, and nobody else can get that location. Then down in 5, again, another email came in about whether we should have it split up as to who gives permission or who puts it on the calendar. A certain part of the year would be the city clerk, and another part of the year, the city council. I think it could be the city clerk through the whole year. We've got these other events that will already be on the calendar, and there shouldn't be a conflict there. That way, there's less chance of having different kinds of decisions as to who can qualify and who doesn't. And then in item 6, that is the paragraph I think that I put in, and I'll go through I think I'll read that whole paragraph just so people know what it is. Yeah. The proposed use of the city green may be denied if the proposed use is, and I wanted to add the word "deemed" there. The proposed use is deemed likely to create a public nuisance or pose a clear and present danger to public safety. Applicants granted use of the city green shall comply with all applicable city rules, regulations, and ordinances, state and federal law. This isn't totally my idea, and looking through other policies that other places have, a paragraph similar to that was in their policies. That's where this came from. The public nuisance part, we can either go by a plain dictionary or encyclopedia definition of public nuisance as our standard, or in the statute that gives the city council its authority to run the city, it does say that we have the right to determine what a public nuisance is. So if at some point we want to define it ourselves, we can, or we can just use a standard definition. And posing a clear and present danger to public safety, people may wonder what that is. Well, we don't know what groups are going to be asking to do what. If they want to do a pyrotechnic display, they want to burn things on the city green, that is clearly, I would say, a clear and present danger to public safety and should not be allowed. So that's why that is put in there. And of course, the paragraph related to complying with laws, that I saw that in a lot of other policies, that you need to be complying with all the other laws that may be present. You can't cite them all because you don't know them all, so you have to write it pretty generally. And then in item 7, my personal feeling is it should not be as long as 60 days for any display to be allowed. I would change it to 30. And that All mine.
On the last one, 60 days, I can see where you're coming from, Rennie, but maybe about 40 days, because sometimes the scene goes up and it's probably there about 40 days, right after Thanksgiving.
Is it after Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Does it go?
Yeah.
I put it up. Well,
Sometimes it gets frozen in.
Yeah.
That's the staying in.
That's another thing too, with the
Maybe
chisel.
that's it. I didn't think it was on there any longer than 30 days.
And we don't allow for freezing in, so.
Yeah.
So maybe we need that
40,
60 or
45
40
days,
or
whatever,
whatever,
yeah.
45 days or
Yeah.
something. It just seemed like a long time. So, yep.
Yeah, Mike,
Okay.
one thing
Go for it.
I can tell you, Joan and I spent some time with this, Rennie, and I can tell you that the list of already approved was really just from an efficiency standpoint, so that Joan grabs a new calendar, blocks them out, and away you go. They're already pre-approved. It also makes it so that, the farmer's market doesn't have to come back to city council every year. These are just set. And also because the list, it does, yes, there are, many of them are city events, but others aren't. There's a couple of them are church related. Another one is which one of these is Evergreen Preschool? I thought.
Well, they've moved.
They've
They have
moved.
theirs
Okay,
at
they moved. That's right. You told me that. So one of the things, it wasn't in an attempt to necessarily give any special treatment to anybody or exclude anybody. It was just so that Joan could just mark the calendar, as Mike would say, that's done. And so that way, when the Methodist Church is trying to figure out when they want to have their bake sales, the calendar is pre-booked.
Well, see, I was making an assumption that we could possibly move, but not have in the policy that all of these are approved. And it's just on the city clerk's calendar. Every year
That'd be
you put
okay
it on
too,
the
yeah.
calendar, and that's
what I
it.
was gonna say, could you just say pre-approved events, list of which is kept in the office of the city clerk or something like that? Because some of these may or may not.
It accomplishes.
I just want Joan to be able to
Yeah.
just efficiently
Yeah.
block that
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah, I'll just put it in minutes then.
Okay. So what we'll do is this will get removed out of
Yeah,
here,
that-
but we'll,
Consensus says to just do that.
Bill, no problem? Randy? Okay. All right, again, this is not finalized, and we're not voting on it tonight, but,
Oh, I have something.
yes, go ahead.
On number 3, I've seen some comments on the emails, and also I've had a couple of people ask me, maybe you can explain why. Where the applicant will furnish and post a clear sign that will be attached to the display or in close proximity of the display signifying its owner or sponsor. Some people said if the City of Vergennes are gonna have their signs out,
We're gonna make a modification to where we're gonna have our signs, we'll let you know what that's gonna be here in a minute, but.
but just
go
to
ahead.
protect, us. They're saying if you have a sign out there by anything, it's like, first of all, why do they have to identify themselves? If somebody wants to know, can't they go to the city clerk's office and find out who owns it or who wants to know?
Yeah, I think.
Casual observer.
That's right, that's right. That's the problem is
Saturday at
the
3
casual,
o'clock.
the casual observer or the reasonable person clause, if you will, is like, and I think that really that is where we were wrong, all right? Because there was no sign, a reasonable person assumed that was city-owned and city installed. And so we need to make sure to address that reasonable person, all right? And they shouldn't have to, they should be told, right
But
there
our
with the
signs
sign.
that are up there isn't gonna take care of that?
Well, that sign is gonna be up there,
thought there was
but
4 of them.
that sign still, I still,
To
I don't
ownership.
think that, I
Okay.
think part of the thing is and I don't wanna speak for Jim Lamette, but I think that that the opinion from the Secretary of State's office stated, I believe, that displays had to have some kind of sponsorship or ownership designation
It
to
did
meet
say
that clause. And I
I
think
didn't
that,
see that.
yeah, and I think that Jim Lamette would say the same. The other thing, as Mike mentioned, I don't wanna get ahead of him too bad here, but one thing relative to signage, I don't know if I've talked to Joan about this, but the signage associated with a display is as important as the display itself, and therefore, I think that I think that when somebody applies for a display, their application should include their proposed sign, all right, as to what size it is, what it says, the lettering is, so that, I think somebody at the earlier meeting said, it might have been Shay, talked about, well, somebody could put a sign that's this big and the font is this big and you can't really tell what's there. And so obviously the specifications on the sign need to be part of the application and acted on by Joan, not have some language here that is somewhat ambiguous and who says that it's clear, all right? I think it needs to be a part of their application. So as Mike says, there's some more work that needs to be done with 3. Also, Peter Guerin, Alderman Guerin has some strong feelings about signage, and so Peter's away, and I know that Peter wants to be involved with how signage is addressed for each one. So the short answer is that each one has to have a sign. It can't pass by the city attorney.
And as long as we're on signage, Mel, Bill, and I have rethought the signage and putting them on the posts. We want to keep our park friendly and at least cluttered as possible, but still put the information out. So once we've established a clear set of rules about the park, we're going to have one sign made and put it on the side of the information booth and see that it's properly lit so it can be seen night or day, that gives the guidelines, and it'll have the verbiage about.
So you're back to one now?
Yes,
Okay.
but it will not be an 8.5 by 11 sign. It will be of larger size so that people can stand back and look at it, but not overwhelming from somebody. Yes, somebody's going to have to come up close, relatively close to it, and be able to read it, but it will be lit, and we want to make it attractive to the whole area. So, okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. If not, I'm going to turn comments or allow comments from the audience. Does anybody, as in the last meeting, I would ask that you raise your hand, be recognized, and state your name when you speak. Anyone? Donna?
Donna Scott. I'm wondering about the list of pre-approved functions. In 2004, the Congress of the United States voted to make Thanksgiving and Christmas both national holidays. They're nationally recognized. And so I'm wondering if it could possibly be blocked out the way the other events are blocked out, that the creche would be allowed at that time every year. We could still do an application, but it just seems like it's as logical as any of the other listings that are on there, because it does always occur at the same time every year. And it seems to make sense if the others are going to be, kind of blocked in, so that somebody, if you can only put the application in 30 days before, somebody wanted to be difficult, they could try to preempt the, the crash. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's as fair as blocking out any of the other times. It would be 30 or 40 days, whatever, but the location of it on the green and for that time would be a given. People could put other displays up as well during that time, but they would have to go through the process as well. But I just think it's fair to block that time out as well as for the other things that you have there.
Okay, we will make note of that, and when the three of us get back together, we'll, discuss it and see make sure that we're not violating or seeing that we keep it in the right direction.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir?
Theodore Sheldon. Just wanted to follow up with Don on that, because I agree, these other ones are blocking out, and the Vergennes, the crush has been there a lot longer than some of these events that have been on here that are very recent. Also, I was just, I was wondering on the sign, I know some, I think it was Mel mentioned about the secretary, but it doesn't sound like we're really 100% sure what he would say or what is written, so I guess I'd like to make sure that before we institute the policy that we really understand what the state of Vermont requires. I know that, Ziggy, you said you had some people talk to you personally, and I just wondered where that requirement came from. I've heard a little bit now that we believe it's the Secretary of State, so it's a Vermont thing, nothing else than Vermont, particularly May Secretary of State. Just want to make sure we're not just doing it without something that's really specifically written down, because to me that really distracts from the display by having a sign on. If you want a little plaque that you put behind something and people want to go up and read it, that's fine, but to have a sign, to me, that really mars and distracts. It'd be like putting something on the Commodore McDonald monument in the center, like, well, this is sponsored by the state of Vermont or city, or, even the one we have, the monument on the front of the community to those who have died in freedom for our country that we really appreciate, putting signs on all things like that, or on the bandstand, or on the United Way sign, or whatever other displays we have out there. We've got the sign that we're talking about putting on the informational display. So just something to keep in mind, that is it something really required, or is it just something that is being interpreted by someone? I like to make sure that we don't do things that really detract from the nature of the display. Not just the nativity scene, but anything else that anyone would put. I would just think to me, we tried in Vermont to not have billboards and all these signs, we tried to make it minimized, so why not keep that the same for the city park?
Okay.
Can I just address that quick?
Yeah.
It's my understanding in reading, the laws and so on, and I've talked to Juliette about it, that for private displays on public property, there are three real strict criteria. One is that the city, does not endorse or oppose, and that's what our sign will take care of. The other is that there has to be some kind of identifier on the display so that anyone who looks at it knows who's the owner. There have been some discussions about not only having the owner, but also maybe a little background on what it is and why it's there. And the other is a consistent application process for all parties, regardless of race or religion or whatever. I agree that we don't want to have signs everywhere, and I think that we're very aware of the fact that what we come up with is going to be hopefully acceptable, tasteful, not something that's going to take away from the display itself. So I think we're on the same page. We just need to kind of work our way through it, and hopefully that's what will all come to something that we can live with.
Okay. Any other comments? Jay?
Jay Stutzel. I'm thinking about Joan here, and just wondering, as Rennie's talking about potential public nuisance type things like that, I'm just wondering if things should always go through the city council for this policy. I hate to create more work for you guys, but I also hate to put Joan in a position where she's approving things or not approving them. And obviously maybe she would come to you to say, is it something I can really approve or not if it's in question. But maybe it's something that's better to have the entire council approving displays that could put on the green. So just something to think about.
Making a note, be right with you. Thank you.
Yeah, just
Go ahead, ready?
back up on that one. I indicated Joan because that's the way it's always been the city clerk, but in looking through policies in other municipalities, they very consistently had not necessarily a city council approving it, but like a Parks and Recreation Board or some board the applications usually went to. Or some director of a particular department, something like that. It varied from place to place, but not a council, but it generally did go to some sort of group to approve.
I would certainly be in favor of having another line that would allow Joan to pass that decision to the council if it's something that she thinks is more complicated. I'm not sure I would write that, but I don't think that the buck should stop with her necessarily if it's something that's very, very unusual or, is gonna require a lot more investigation.
Joni, any comment on that one?
I like the committee idea. But I just think that is a good idea. Like if you have like a committee of 3 that would act on these applications and they would be versed with it because they're always dealing with it, rather than me, I'm dealing with uses compared to displays. Now, wait a minute, let me get the policy. Let me get my feet in the right spot. I'm okay with doing it, but I just thought it was a good idea. And
Well, again, between you and Mel, you're there 40 hours a week, and that was part of the idea, that not to slow down the process too much, but try to keep it moving in a timely manner. But
That's
realizing that there will be probably questions once we put this in place. I'm sure that it'll be like anything with the growing pains. We got to get over some hurdles and figure out what the growing pains are.
well,
So-
that's basically what the policy does do. I mean, if in doubt, I'm gonna say no. It gives them an appeal process, that it can go to the city council. Doesn't it say that in there, or has that been cut out?
Probably not, John.
Yeah. But we can do that.
Regardless, if you don't feel comfortable,
Oh, I would say no.
right.
But I guess Rennie had brought that up before. There was no appeal process, like if someone didn't like my decision.
That's the way it goes.
This is Vergennes.
Jay, go for it.
Sorry, just one more thought on that. One of the other issues that came up was the dates. So there were certain dates where you had to take it to city council and certain dates where Joan could approve it. If it always came to city council, you wouldn't have to worry about the dates. Because that did feel kind of discriminatory to, I think, some groups, or at least things were mentioned in terms of when holidays fell and things like that. I don't have any specifics on that, but that's a way to get around having, that these certain dates you can go to Joan, and certain dates go to the city.
In the summer months, this isn't rhyme and reason, it's just some thought in it. In the
Right.
summer months, we meet only once a month. It might slow up something if somebody came at the last minute. Again, trying to give some rhyme and reason for what the thought process was when we did it. Doesn't mean we gotta stay with it, but it's all about making touch and making sure that everybody's available. And then if we have a committee of 3, we have to consider now, if 2 of them go out of town at one time, can one make the decision? It compounds the concern. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying here's things that are questions that are gonna be asked. It'd be a bummer if all of them go out at the same time and all go to the same place. Well, we could contact them and get it straightened out, I'm sure, but
Yeah,
I
Jay,
think it was one of the things that
Sure.
there was a 30-day, that they wanted the application submitted 30 days before the display is supposed to go up. I believe I read that in the policy.
it says no more than 30 days.
Oh,
No
okay,
more
sorry,
than- you
before,
could-
okay,
you
sorry, I
could- you
misread
could
that.
Apply the day before, but you couldn't apply, 4,000 days before. One of the things, I can assure you that the dates, where Joan would approve between October 15 and May 15 and otherwise, it doesn't have anything to do with discrimination. It really deals more about what's the purpose of the park, all right? And the park obviously has, it is a multi-purpose park. It's a place to just go and sit and enjoy the park. It's also a place where events are held. It's also a place where displays can be put up, and so it's a multi-purpose park. So how can we come up with a policy to make everybody happy? I'm pretty sure that we can't. I'm pretty sure that if we can come up with a policy that everybody is equally upset with, I think that we should be just fine, all right? So, I can tell you the way I wrote Hannah about this early this morning, I think Hannah about was, and I have trouble counting months, and I'm sorry, I do know how to divide 12 by 2, and it's certainly not, it's actually 7 months and 5 months, not 6 and 6, sorry about that. But anyway, it's really an attempt to make sure that the park is available for events without being encumbered by displays. I mean, when we have the Memorial Day event, that park is shoulder to shoulder. And if you think about the displays, this is talking about 400 square feet, all right? So conceivably, there is, if you don't split it up or have some other way to deal with this thing, conceivably you could lose 800 or 1,200 square feet of the park for the events, okay? And so we're trying to figure out a way, how can we address that so that events aren't hampered by displays, but at the same time, if somebody wants to put up a display that really isn't bothering anybody, how can we accommodate that? So it's a little trying to make everybody reasonably happy, because it doesn't say no. It never says no in here. It just has a process of what Joan or what some committee could do, and then a process that some other display. It might be the case that somebody might be able to have a display in there for 10 days. They couldn't put it up for 30 because there's an event in there. So don't think that it says no. It has a path that somebody could take to apply.
The other thought process that we're trying to give and make sure that everybody realizes, we try to keep that park in pristine condition, and make that the prettiest park in the state of Vermont. And in the process, we have sprinklers that are built in that go on automatically around 5 o'clock in the morning. They go off 7 days a week. And if you start putting something over a sprinkler head, that's not gonna work well. And just locations and cutting the grass is another issue. We wanna try to maintain it, where in the colder months, October through April-ish, that's less of an issue. So that's some of the other thought that's going in there. And so how do you meet that? Like Mel says, if we can keep everybody a little upset, not totally upset, we're doing good. So
it wasn't arbitrary, Jay. I can tell you that. It really wasn't.
From last meeting when you guys met, and I didn't mean to say that it was discriminatory in any way, because that was not my intention, but again, I think that's a way to get the dates out of there, if that is an issue for people, is, if they know that they're just gonna have to come to the city council, and they can determine, or that small group can determine, okay, you can't have it here because we have Memorial Day, or you can end it, the day before that, or whatever it might be, so. But I do appreciate everyone putting this much time and energy into this, and being willing to listen to people, give their input, and Mike accepting all those emails.
and I value those emails, whether it's 9 o'clock at night or if I catch them at 4 o'clock in the morning.
He sends them out at 4:10 every morning.
Yeah. I have to go down and feed the pellet stove. I don't know what I'm going to have to do after I take and shut that down. I'll still go down and check the emails. How's that? But it's and we have other things that I'm getting emails on too. So it's always good to hear from the community. When I don't, then I start kind of wondering, okay, what's happening out there? So it's good. Any other comments?
Can I just have a follow-on?
Sure, you certainly may.
The one thing that, Bill, I know that you mentioned there's no cultural, religious, political, whatever that we have for those things, but there's just such a tradition that transcends all those, and I'm just curious, why that couldn't be encapsulated in here, as a special event, just as anything else that we call special that we've had for years and years and years. I just don't see the difference on that, so that's all that I would mention on that this is really more than just a religious display. It's a tradition of Vermont that's been here since, what, 1947 or something, did I hear? I mean, I don't know when it was put up, but it was long ago, so it's just more than that. So I just want the council to think about that too when they're.
When we're working this policy, one of the things we want to do is eliminate any hint of favoritism. So that's why we're trying to be kind of neutral and in our wording. And so if we make something into a special event, do we show some leaning towards that particular one? I don't know. That's why we want to keep it as.
Well, you are in a sense.
Yeah.
Vergennes Day celebration, you're celebrating Vergennes.
Yeah.
French Heritage Day was a very recent tradition just added, because we're celebrating
Vergennes
our
Day.
beginnings, not Vergennes Day,
Yeah.
but the
Mhm.
French Heritage
Yeah.
Day, for instance.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not saying it's favoritism, you're just recognizing this is a tradition that we've had in the city for a long
Yeah.
time. So I think it needs to be given that kind of consideration and
Mhm.
not just, if it had just started a couple years ago, somebody put in a display up, that's one thing. But that's something that's been going on for this long. Every year you gotta apply for it. I mean, the Lions Club's been doing it for how long? You know, it's just, that's just all that I'm asking, for giving
Sure.
special counsel to the other, or special preference. It's not really a preference, it's just recognizing the traditions of the city.
Okay. Well, the thing that we want to make sure is we don't have to send this back to our lawyer friend too many times, because Mr. Moneybags is very tight when it comes to trying to do it, but we want to do it right.
Foreign policy.
Yep.
And we're deciding it
Oh, yes.
for years to come, so we don't want something that's just gonna work for 5 years or something, and then we have to revisit it again, so.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anthony?
Mr. Mayor, I took, Anthony Dupree, I took the liberty of speaking with and passing along the policy to an attorney who specializes in this area. He drafts these policies and then also often defends them. So I figured I'd bounce it off from him and just get his thoughts on it. And for what it's worth, I figured I'd pass them along. Some of the elements, the issues that he'd identified have already been raised tonight. That maybe there should be an appeal process here that's identified. In particular, if it's going to be one person that's making a decision. Not that I'm casting aspersions on Joan, I'm sure she'd do a fine job, but that would be good. And then, thinking about a time period for them to be acted upon, so that that somebody just can't sit on them. It's a deemed approval, sort of like a zoning permit situation, where a certain period of time to act, and then otherwise it's deemed approved. And the other thing was, he had suggested the phrases public nuisance and clear and present danger to public safety. He had asked, well, maybe you can tie that to a definition already in the Vermont statutes. And I didn't have a chance to look at that yet, but just to provide some guidance. So it sort of takes it out of the realm of arbitrary and something that there may be some greater guidance on that. So those were some good ideas, and he thought statutes and ordinances can be challenged for vagueness, and that's what he thought was the risk there, if it was so vague that it could be arbitrary. And I think that was it. The only other thing, the holiday stroll, when we had that list, the purpose of the list, I understood, was to avoid conflict. That wouldn't eliminate the nativity scene, correct, on its face.
No.
And then the other flip side of that is that the nativity scene has been part of a display that really is incorporated with the holiday stroll. So is that part of that, or would there have to be an application for that display? I wasn't sure in combining the two policies what the thought was there. Thank you.
Could we get you to email us some notes as to,
Sure.
just make sure that we capture that when Mel and I meet, so we try to hit all the key points.
Right.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? If not, I really want to thank everybody for all their input. It's been a real process, and we are making headway, but this will not go anywhere until it is done right. And we want all council members here to serve in that final decision where it ends up. Okay? If there aren't any other comments on that, I am going to go to, due to the hour, I'm actually going to bump this one. Item C, the goals, I'm going to bump that to the next meeting. Okay? And if anybody feels that they need to leave, please go ahead. We'll give you a few seconds. And again, Mary, thank you very much. Have a safe trip. Have a very safe trip on your way home.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Stop in tomorrow.
Actually, I should ask her to take my place because she's going out to dinner at Black Sheep. I take her place. Again, thank you for coming. Next item is going to be 7, City Manager's Report. Mel?
Yeah, I'm just gonna report that, we did, file the Board of Listers filed the ban list, probably the earliest of all time on April 11th. Grievance is scheduled for April 30th, so if anybody doesn't like their assessment and feels they have an argument to, have a reduced property tax assessment, you need to get a letter into us by April 30th at 5:30. The other thing I wanted to report that the Riverwalk project, which is the stairway project located behind and along Bill's LF Benton property, is, I'm going to say, 99.99% done. You ready? You should see this project. I know that you were involved with some of the earlier plannings. It's quite a project. It's open to the public. We will at some point have a little more formal celebration, but we have a final walkthrough on next Tuesday, on May 1st at 10 o'clock in the morning. The other thing, just want to report, Mike, that there was a time when I really planned on getting my budget proposal to you today, and obviously that's not in your packets. And my backup target is on May 8th, is when you will get that. And once when we get to that date, we'll have to take a look at scheduling, because obviously I'm going to be out for about a month. But anyway, so if you're wondering where that budget is, it wasn't because you lost it. It never did make it to your packets, but again, it'll be in your packets for May 8th.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Any questions of Mel on any particular issue from the council? Hearing nothing, we're gonna move to new business. Vergennes Farmers Market, proposed 2012 schedule, and a request for advertising funds. I'd ask for a motion on the advertising funds.
Make the motion, please.
In favor of?
Yes.
Ask for a second. Randy made the motion, Joe made the second. Now we're gonna open it up for discussion.
What is the amount?
$250.
$250.
We've done this before.
We did this last year, and Mel and I talked about this, and it's our intent not to go on and do this forever and ever. It's to try to help them get established, like Middlebury, Shelburne. Last year was a big success. We see it heading in the right direction. So we think it would be a wise idea. It really benefits the stores. There was some discussion, come right out in front and tell everybody. There was a discussion as to should the stores be paying for this or should we be paying for it? But let's get over this one hurdle and we'll see where it goes in a future year. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the farmer's market? Joe?
We're also asked to approve a banner, is that?
Yeah, I've emailed back and forth. The banner, I explained to Rhonda that the banner over the street, we don't have a banner over the street. I think that there was a blood drawing banner, and that's really because blood drawings are associated with the Lions Club, and there's somebody in the Lions Club that has something to do with Green Mountain Power. So I don't have that kind
And
of.
the Legion, some of the Legion banners get up there too.
So anyway, I don't have anything to do with that. Also, I made it clear to Rhonda that, you know, permanent or semi-permanent banners in the park really is a violation of our sign ordinance. You
Yeah,
can't,
policy.
you can't have that. So anyway, I've basically denied her banner idea. And the scheduling, you know, and I'm sorry that this didn't get to you, but typically the city council acts on their reservation of the park because the farmer's market involves for-profit, if you will. I mean, the vendors that are associated with the farmer's market, you know, they're not nonprofit organizations, they're vendors. Those need to be, that schedule really needs to be approved by the council. So if the motion was to expand, Randy, to include their schedule of June 11th to September 10th, that would enable Joan to block out all of those Thursdays.
I amend my motion.
You, okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have another.
Go.
I would love to see, last year we spoke about, or at least I remember coming up in conversation, some kind of sandwich board sign or some kind of temporary signage at the entrances to the city from Route 7, advertising the farmer's market. I was curious if anything like, do you know about anything like that, or?
Last year when I was working with this committee, working with the farmer's market, they had talked about it, and they actually did put signs out on Route 7. There's a question of legality with those signs, though, because they can't be in the public right away. They can't.
That's correct. They cannot.
So
They're not supposed to be.
They're not supposed to be. But they end up there. So there is no permanent signage. They have to put them out there, then pick them up.
Yeah, that's what I thought, like a sandwich board or something like that.
Yeah,
that was out
they've
there.
been doing that.
Right, okay.
If the highway department finds them there, they will remove
They
them.
put on
They'll
top of the
confiscate
big
them.
dog out there by,
That would be outside the public right of way, so
Yeah.
that would be okay. It's when they put them out in the
Now,
island
if you
or
can
something.
do some big cauliflower and like you're feeding the dog and the cat. So, yeah, maybe we
I would
could
just
take
like
and
to
talk
find ways to get, I would really like to see this.
More traffic.
I
Yeah.
certainly would, and I'd really like to see this, you know, take off. Really would.
Yep. Well, anything we can do personally or as a group, then I feel that we should attempt to support and make it happen, because it just does more, it brings more into the city.
I'd like to see every city council member down there buying a chicken for your pot Thursday nights.
Chicken? I didn't know they had chicken.
Chicken, sure they have chicken down there.
Really?
Sure.
I'll call it quits.
Teresa Smith is down there selling chickens.
All right. They alive or they
No,
cooked?
just
They're ready for the pot.
Oh, okay. Had me worried there for a minute. We wouldn't want them running through the
I've
park.
done my share of killing chickens when I was a kid on the farm.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we're having fun, and that's what life's about. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have it going. Okay, next item, we have some guests to speak to this. Friends of the Opera House requesting advanced financial fund. I'd like actually Mel to start the conversation.
Yeah, Jeff Nelson is here. He's one of the board members for the Opera House, and Eileen, I think, is hiding here. And I'm happy to just turn it over to them with their request, but basically what it is to allow the city to release funds from the water tower account to pay any amounts that will be covered by grants or historic tax credits, so that the Opera House isn't faced with having to go out and get some loan from a bank, nothing against banks, but their option, they've burned through most of their resources actually for this project, and so they're in a catch-22. The historic tax credits are only available to them upon completion of the project, and the grants are only available to them upon the completion of the project. And so they need to finish the project, they need cash flow to do that. And there's a spreadsheet, and Jeff handed out some additional information. And basically what I would recommend is that the city front those dollars. I believe it's up to $52,500, which is up to the amount of money that is covered by those two guarantees, because the grant money is real and the historic tax credits are real, and that would enable Alpine to complete their work and Mike Adams to complete their work, and hopefully get this project behind us.
So you view this as a short-term loan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. An interest-free, unsecured yet guaranteed. We can change the locks on the Opera House if need be.
I make said motion.
Randy made the motion to approve it. Ask for a second.
Second.
Bill got it in first. He's got a third if we need one. Okay, before we have any more discussion, I want to give Jeff a few minutes, if you'd like, to add any other things that he might, so that it might draw some questions or discussion from the council.
Well, actually, I'll defer to my lead as our executive director, who is
Yep.
as well versed.
Okay.
I think Mel pretty much covered it. The idea behind this is, as we've been discussing with the city, our cash flow is very low at the moment. So we are faced with the aspect of trying to get this project done, get our vendors paid in the timely manner so that they'll do the work, get it done, not have to wait until after these grants and tax credits are given to us to get that payment going, so that we can get it done. That both the cultural facilities grant and the tax credit are, again, as guaranteed money can be in this day and age. But they are both approved, have been approved, and again, will be available upon completion and inspection of the system. So that's basically the idea. We don't have a specific timeline right now. Our hope is that if we can have this, we know we have the cash basically in hand, that we can really push Alpine and Mike Adams and have that be the final piece that says, we're done, we're ready to go, the money's there, let's complete this project and be done.
And at the end of the day, it protects landmark buildings. They're so much a part of our downtown and hopefully part of our lives.
Randy?
Well, we have the money available in the watershed fund,
Yes.
water tower fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next item on the agenda is proposed recycling program budget. Mel?
Yeah, typically, what we'd like to do is get the recycling program budget out to the other 5 towns as early as possible. Last year, we were able to do that and let the area towns know that there was actually a reduction in their contracts. This year is not the case based on my projected numbers, but I would like the city council to approve the recycling program budget for FY 2013, so that I can then prepare the contracts for those towns, and they'll be notified as to what their obligations are for the ensuing year.
I'd ask for a motion.
I make the motion.
Ziggy makes a motion, ask for a second.
Second.
Rennie made the second, now open for discussion.
Are we doing any monitoring down there? Sometimes, a spot check, make sure people are from Vergennes, Adam, whoever that we're dealing with, because there's been 3 or 4 out-of-state cars when I've been in line the last 2-3 times. So I was just wondering.
The answer is no.
Okay. And 2 of them were big truck loads of they were just packed, and they were both from out of state. And I was
Are we
just-
talking New York State
New
or?
York. Yeah,
One of the things that we gotta figure out, and I don't know how we do that, and I don't know if we can put that burden on anybody, is to find out maybe these people are actually property owner. I know some people that live in Pan and or Vergennes have camps over in Crown Point. So,
well, if you don't mind, if
yeah,
I see that,
no,
I'll get out
I'm
and
not
ask
saying I
them.
don't mind, I'm
No,
just
but I'd
saying.
get out and
it'd
ask them, if you didn't mind, I'd just find out.
We'll get George to give you a badge and you'll be all
Okay.
set. It's that easy.
All right.
Okay? No, by all means, if question, feel free to ask. So, we have a motion to adopt this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Bill was gonna recuse himself of this next, issue.
Pretty go.
He, he's got a, he's got a disposition that he's gotta do here at, in Middlebury about 8:45, so he's, had some other business that he had to go deal with. So, Bill, Mel, and I have been talking on this other issue, on this lease issue, for a whole bunch of reasons. The area of the falls is a very pretty area, and I've been kind of pushing Bill for years to try to get the lane cleaned up a little bit, open it up so you can see in and around. We have some concerns of other individuals that pass through that area and drink down there. I think with a little bit of tree thinning, opening it up, that'll help reduce the amount of insects that come to our city. Not sure about that part, but anyways, we just think it'll add so much to that area by cleaning it up a little bit. And also, we can do this by making it more of a recreation area, a footpath, open that up, really make it nice down there. Right now, a lot of people are down there using it to fish in the spring and then throughout the summer. One of the concerns is they're taking some of the trees and starting fires, and that's one thing we have to kind of monitor. But other than that, we'd like to see about beautifying another part of Vergennes. So it just, again, it helps attract to that basin even more than what we have now. At some point, I have to recognize my brother for the many years that he has put on the rest of the bank of the Otter Creek. So it's another area that we want to open up and make it look good. So
One of the things that this lease will do, it actually provides complete public connectivity from the Riverwalk project all the way to the McDonough dock. Obviously, the working upstream, if you will, the city owns the McDonough Park, the dock next to Mike's brother's house. The next parcel, which is about 200 feet wide, we already have a lease with LF Benton that was signed back in 1993, I think it was. And then we have a lease with Greg Clark, the Clark family in Pollender Real Estate, ironically, that actually wraps around Christine Bradford's property. Christine's property doesn't run all the way to the river. And then the city owns a parcel of land which hosts the McDonough Drive pump station. And that's that piece of property that the city owns goes up to the center of Potash Brook. So the drawing that you have here that's highlighted yellow takes all of the land from Potash Brook except for the building, the property of Sarah and Tim Cowan, and runs all the way up to the back of the brick building, you know, where Bill lives and Bill's sister lives and where Long Trail is located. Green Mountain Power owns a very weird shaped piece of land which the city has an easement for the stairway project. So basically what this larger piece of property does is it, like I said, it just brings complete public connectivity from the McDonough Park all the way to Main Street for pedestrians.
No, didn't we already have some sort of a lease agreement on this property?
Not on
Just-
that one.
Not on that one?
Not on that one, no.
Because I know in City Hall someplace, there is a plan for a path to connect everything together.
Green Mountain Power owns a right-of-way, a roadway down through there to get to their equipment. And the matter of fact, they own a little corner of property up near the building itself, so. But this would just, add to our, as one of our zoning requirements, that we're supposed to try to open up more public recreation space, and this reminds me of a place down in Bennington where people go and picnic and take time on a Sunday to go enjoy, the waterfront. And
The other thing that this does, Rennie, is, as I'm sure you remember, the Job Corps with their urban forestry class, that class, if you will, that does work obviously off-site, they are not allowed to go on private property, because they cannot, in essence, using federal dollars to be cutting in on other
private.
Private concerns. And so by this property being under the control by a lease, it enables Jeremy and his class to be able to do work out there without stepping on the toes of any private concern.
So, based on that, I would ask for a motion to authorize us to move forward on this lease.
When you're authorizing us to move forward, I mean, sign the lease?
Sign the lease.
It's on.
Authorize Mel to sign the lease.
Right.
And Ziggy raised her hand, I take it
Joe can,
in
whatever.
favor of?
No, I just had a question.
Yep. Do I have a second? And we'll get further discussion. Joel will second it, and open for any other discussion that there may be. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Joe had a question.
Whoops.
Do you have a question?
No?
No, the question I had was, when you said move forward, what that really meant.
Yeah, okay.
What that meant, signing it, that was my question.
So basically, what the motion is to approve the lease and authorize me to sign that on behalf of the city.
I don't see any missing. I mean, it's just, I don't see any money on here.
There's no money.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
Well, the compensation is that, I will tell you that there is compensation, but it's, Bill knows that it's not a lot, is that we remove that acreage from their property tax assessment. That's that in essence is the compensation. So no, there's no check, there's no money.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Oh, excuse me.
Go for it.
Who has the responsibility if somebody gets hurt on there? Some kind of insurance
Us.
reason?
Us.
We will.
We're covered.
All right,
We have
just
liability
asking.
insurance that covers that.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, next item is item E, outdoor seating licenses. I'm gonna go through these one by one. First one we're going to do is, on the north end of the street is Luigi's. Mel, you just wanna talk briefly about,
I will,
That one?
if you wanna defer to Julian, that's okay, we can go through the other ones
Okay.
at the end. It's
okay,
fine.
yep, all right, we'll go to Julian Jones. Mel, you
There's
wanna,
actually, there's a letter, Julian,
did I bury it?
there's a letter that Julian, sent in, because the way that I had drafted the outdoor seating agreement did not include, it only included the area directly in front of her business. And, last summer, Julian made a request to the board to, in essence, expand that area, which includes, some area in front of Main Street Footworks. And so what she is here tonight is to appeal to the city council to, for that space to extend in front of Main Street Footworks, again as well. One of the things in the letter, in the letter, Julian, it makes reference to David Austin, the owner of Main Street Footworks, which actually is not the case, as I understand it, and Jennifer's here, who is the owner of Main Street Footworks, and Jennifer may, will likely want to comment to the city council as well relative to this request.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to approve this, so we can open it for discussion and then hear both sides.
I'll make some.
Randy will make the motion, Joe will second it. Now, any question, discussion from the council first?
When you're saying approve, you're asking us to approve the requested, is that correct?
I am asking, yeah, we're just not saying that we're going to, okay?
No, when, right.
Approve
Understood.
this seating arrangement,
Right,
okay? It's just to get it on the table.
I wanna make sure I know exactly what we're, when I give my second, what we're approving here.
Unamended seating?
I wrote this agreement, that, and the attachment, Mike, where's the map is here. Apparently this may have been unclear, so I think it's really important that this indeed be crystal clear.
Oops, I'm back now.
Okay, well, I wanna make sure,
Make sure you get the right one.
well, I wanna make sure that there's a highlighted one. Which one do you have? You have the original?
I don't have the original, no, this is
Okay.
a copy.
I got it. This, the highlighted version, I think everybody has a highlighted, don't you have a highlighted version in your, that's attached? It's not highlighted?
It's the same thing, it's just it
It's-
doesn't have color on
It
it.
doesn't have the color on it, it's a shrunk down version,
shrunk down.
but you can't, there's some
Okay.
there's some footnotes here,
Okay.
hard
So
to read.
Yeah,
So he's
it's,
only highlighted to here.
yeah, you should look at this now. Vergennes Laundry is here, this is their entrance is here. You drop down and there's a outside seating area that is adjacent to Black Sheep Bistro. And, the highlighted area, I drew the highlighted area. This other highlighted area here is, in front of Vergennes Laundry. And this was the way that it was originally approved a year ago. In the last summer, Julian came to the city council requesting that outside seating area be expanded to include the brick area in front of Main Street Footworks. And that was,
But not on the elevated
not
portion
on
of
the
the
elevated, on the lower
on the
portion, that's
street
correct.
level, correct, okay.
Yeah, only down here, not up at that upper level. The city council approved that, and Jennifer got in touch with me and expressed her objections to that. And I explained to her that the city council approved it, and therefore it stands, and that, however, made it clear to Jennifer, as much to her dismay, that outside seating approval was valid through November 15th. And so from November 15th until today, Julian has not used this, has used that portion. And so I wrote this agreement reflecting this highlighted area here, and what Julian is here is to appeal to the city council in hopes that she can again use an expanded area that would be in front of Main Street Footworks.
Julian, would you have anything to add other than the letter that you submitted to the council? Okay, no, I just want to give you the opportunity.
The original, when Gary first came, or got the permit, was just the one side next to Black Sheep Bistro. And then the lilies were not looking so great, and so we did that whole extra section altogether. So we didn't just expand it in front of the other shop, we just used that whole space since it's one.
Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
And I'm wondering, do you have the letter that I emailed?
I know that you sent something. I don't have anything, and the problem is that, and I mean, it's not your fault. You emailed me via our website, and they don't get to me until the following day, so I don't have anything.
Okay.
You know, I knew that you were writing something, but I didn't. Joan mentioned it to me late this afternoon, and I didn't get anything.
Okay, well, I'll do my best then to kind of sum it up very quickly. I just want to point out that my store is very small. Visibility has always been an issue for me. And so anything that deters from my customers or potential customers locating my shop or discovering it, because a lot of my business is walk-in, I mean, it detracts from my business. And I just, you know, I can't imagine that it's okay to put another business's tables and chairs in front of a business if it's blocking the view from the street of my store. So it really is a real issue for me. You know, I support 3 children. That's my sole source of income. And, you know, when cars go by, they have, a couple seconds to see what it is. And when there are people seated out front, all along the front of the stores, it makes Vergennes Laundry look like it encompasses more space than it actually does. So it is a serious issue for me. And it's one little table. And that one little table makes a big difference to my store. So that's all I have to say.
Go ahead.
Do you guys have these photos that we sent originally?
We don't have them in our packet. I don't.
No, I don't.
No.
Just have a picture of the tables out so you can see just the difference in the
Give it to Joan if you would, please.
two
Thank you.
levels. Because we would definitely not put something that would hinder people going into another store or seeing it, and we've definitely thought of that.
I have had customers come into my shop questioning the table out there.
Okay.
So I'll
Bill,
just say that.
Bill's not here, but he did stop by City Hall late in the afternoon, and if he was here, I'm sure that he would ask this question. And his question was whether or not there was a compromise position that could be agreed, whereby the table that we're talking about could be located there when you're not open. You know, the Vergennes Laundry opens.
No, I would say no because I've also had people go through town, come into my store and say they went by and saw my store and decided to stop at a later time. So I would disagree with that.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's not about disagreeing. It's about Bill just wondered. Bill just wondered if that was.
I'm sure all of you know my storefront is very small, and it's very hard for people to see, even without a table and chairs there. So with it there, it's definitely a problem for me.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, but go ahead. Just make sure that you, go ahead.
Well, it pertains.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
my
Just more discussion.
right. It does not. This to me is that a business should display in front of its own place. You should not be able to carry over into other place because you're not paying the rent on Jen Austin's facility. You're paying the rent for your territory which lies in front of your business. So it's impeding on hers. Whether it seems like it's an encroachment, and I don't really support it.
See, did you have something?
I think that every person who has their own store on Main Street ought to be able to have the front of their own store.
Okay. Sir?
Or utilize the front.
The reason we built that is because you approved it. We kind of sent letters out and said to the store owner, then to the landlord and to the town whether that would be feasible. And then we paid for that improvement to the sidewalk and to the brickwork.
So why was it approved if
I mean, it was the same council, almost the same council who approved it.
And not in defense of who was and wasn't here, but those were the circumstances at the time. There was a different owner at the time, and whether he objected or chose not to object, we are now in a situation where we do have an objection, and we have to take that into consideration. As far as you paying for that, we'll talk with Mel to see how that, if that needs to be dealt with, or whatever. But we need to take all the facts into consideration, one way or the other.
I just feel like it shouldn't be seen as us encroaching. We went through a process, it was approved, and it seemed like a kind of something that went in the in the spirit of that whole Main Street, which is to have people outside and to encourage foot traffic, which is, we all benefit from foot traffic. She benefits from people going to the laundry. We benefit from people who go to the shoe store because it's exposure to all of our clients.
And she has a small storefront, but we do too. It's a few different feet different.
Yep.
It's 15.5 feet, and Rebecca is next door, and she has a tiny storefront. And we took out the lilies, and now she can see.
If I may speak now?
Sure.
That's all right.
Your name, please?
Rebecca Duffy. I have the studio that's actually sub-level next to Jen's. And I noticed a huge difference in foot traffic when the laundry's open into my space. And I think if I could just add one thing, I think being in this small city and trying to fill storefronts and increase foot traffic in our community, I think it's important to note that we all depend on each other to have active storefronts and to increase everybody's foot traffic. And I think supporting each other as opposed to putting up barriers for each other is really what I would hope our objectives would be. And I feel like I have better visibility with just the fine lines of the tables and chairs and the occasional patron versus the lilies that were completely blocking my light and people's view of my storefront.
Randy?
Is there an ADA issue that's also goes with this one? Doesn't it have to accommodate a wheelchair?
Well, the sidewalk area, our sidewalk is there. You're talking about.
Well, it's the distance if you get people sitting in that space and with chairs and they spread to the sidewalk and over the sidewalk, then if somebody's in a wheelchair or baby carriage or stuff like that, you're impeding that right away.
Well, in this instance, the table and the two chairs are not on the city sidewalk, and there's no barrier. There's no ropes or chains or anything like that.
Okay, I was just asking.
Other discussion?
What are your hours of business? What are your business hours?
I'm open from 9 to 5. Tuesday through Saturday.
I'm sorry?
Tuesday through Saturday. Presently,
Tuesday through Saturday.
It will be Monday through Saturday. And I'd just like to add, my store has been there since 1999. We've held our own. The economy's not great right now. I'm rather insulted to think that somebody would try to convince me that blocking the view of my store is somehow adding to my business. Everybody helps everybody else's business, that's true. That does not, however, give somebody the right to impede my business and put something in front of my business. And I would hope that you would all consider that.
So what are we're voting on approving?
The motion was to approve. If the members choose to allow it to happen, they would vote in favor of it. If they were
The expanded.
If they were against having that additional table out there in front of the shoe store, they would vote no. So, any other discussion? If not, I'm gonna move it to the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Show of hands. Opposed, raise your hands. Okay? So it's been denied.
Can I ask one question?
You may.
What can that space be used for now?
It's not, it can't be used for outside seating.
Can it be used for tables or seats?
Can it be, yep, sure. If it doesn't, as long as it doesn't block the public travel, it could be used for
So
that.
why do we have to apply to have people sit there, which is our business of sitting and eating? And she doesn't have to apply to sit there, to have tables with shoes on the space that we pay to make the way it is?
So you're saying if she has intentions to use that same space to put shoes on down at the street level, she has to apply for a permit, just like,
don't know.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. is-
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the ordinance.
Yeah.
I think that the ordinance relative to outdoor display of product, I think our ordinance says that that's allowed as long as it does not
Okay.
obstruct pedestrian flow. So like if you know,
And
if
I really have no plans on putting shoes on there. I really don't need somebody walking by and grabbing a box of shoes and walking off of them.
Okay. All right. The decision was made and it was denied. So next ones that we'll go to is.
So anyway,
is-
one of the things, yeah,
Yeah.
let me just tell you, I don't know how you wanna handle these, cause typically, these things have been written for me to sign, but I don't sign these licenses, without authorization from the board. So what, let me you can handle these things one at a time if you'd want, or you can handle them in both. Let me just tell you that relative to, one of them has a little bit of a twist, and that deals with Luigi's. And Luigi's plan includes outside seating in front of a portion of the consignment shop. And in this instance, the consignment shop does not object to outside seating in front of a portion of their, in front of their store.
Okay, we'll handle that one next. Randy.
I actually got a question. In fairness to Julian, that we should try to approve their application with the unamended for just what Mel originally sent out, so they're not going through another round? Is that possible?
You wanna, just
Approve
authorize?
it without that little section.
Yeah, that's fine,
Okay.
yeah. You can do that now.
You can make the motion, Randy.
Okay, I make the motion that we approve the outsiding seating for Julian Jones based on what Mel has sent out to them of the two spaces that is contingent to their front of their establishment.
And Ziggy
I'll
seconds it?
second it.
Okay. Open further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Randy, for pointing that out. Let's go up to Luigi's and discuss that one while we're,
As I mentioned, in the case of Luigi's outside seating, historically, has included a portion that also is outside of the immediate front of their business. It has historically used, I'm gonna say approximately half of the consignment shop's frontage. If you remember, the consignment shop, there's actually two entrances. They only use the one to the right, and the first part is consignment, and maybe the second part is more of a sports exchange or vice versa. I can tell I spend a lot of time shopping. Anyway, in this instance, there is no objection to Luigi's using a portion of their frontage that is in directly in front of them. I've spoke with Tim Ryan, and Tim Ryan's position as a landlord is as long as if the tenants are fine with it, he's fine with it. So this might appear to be to be able to be, if you were to grant this, I can see how this might appear to be inconsistent with the previous action dealing with Julian. However, in this instance, the store owner has no objections to outside seating being in front of their business.
Go ahead, Randy.
But in all fairness, we can. In the fact that we've just said that people should keep their business within their confines of their.
You said that.
I said that. But we all voted in that.
I voted for that because the lady didn't want it there.
I agree. I think that if the other store does not object, that seems reasonable.
Right.
I mean, had Jennifer said that it was fine, I would have voted for it.
Me too.
I would have had no problem with that, but.
Yeah.
I said that I don't agree with that.
Okay. I have a motion to pass it as written.
Which in the Luigi's would include, a portion of the frontage of the consignment shop.
Ziggy, did you make that motion?
No, I don't have a motion on that.
You don't
make the motion.
Joe's gonna make the motion.
Or did you make the motion?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Joe made the motion. I'm getting tired, sorry. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Joe made the motion. Ziggy seconded it to pass this, allowing them to cover over into the other areas with the understanding there is, and you do have that all.
Yeah.
Mel verified that was acceptable by both the neighbor and the property owner. So, open for discussion.
I mean, it goes back to fair, equal, being equal for everybody, and we should not, it should be just cut dry in this case, regardless of whether the other person on that sidewalk says that's all right with me. It should not cut both ways. It's gotta be, you gotta pick one path and follow it.
If we had a policy, if it was in our agreements that we didn't allow any intrusion in front of any other business, fine, and we go by the policy. But I think that, I mean, it's public property, it's not their own property. If there was their own property and they gave themselves permission to do it, they could do that. And I don't see if the other business owner doesn't have any objection, even if the two of them are dealt with differently, I don't see a problem with that. If, as I said, if Jennifer had said, fine, I like having that in front of my business, I would have voted for it. I don't see a problem with it.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving this?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
And you have
So-
to vote, Mike.
May get-
I'll vote in the favor of the ayes. Okay.
And the other two are easy. The other
Okay.
two are,
Black Sheep, I'm gonna combine these next two. Black Sheep, Bistro, and 3 Squares. I have a motion for both of those to be approved.
Make said motion.
Randy made the motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Rennie made the second. Open for discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
I'm sorry, I didn't get who made the motion.
I started, I made.
Randy made the motion.
And Randy,
Rennie
okay.
seconded. I can find my stuff before I lose it totally. Okay, so that goes there, that goes there. Okay, I should have done all these things earlier when I had the, more of a crowd so that they all get it, but, Green Up Day starts, at 7 a.m. on May 5th, Saturday, and anybody that would like to participate and can join us at the park, please come and help us, clean the city, to green up the city. Some communications that I have received and would like to share, that there's less than 30 days between now and the grand celebration of the opening of the bridge. So this Thursday, they're having a meeting down at the Victorian House, which is right there at the foot of the bridge. They'd like to get people there to help with the organization of the event. There's a lot of things that are in place, and a lot of stuff is happening real fast, so they need a lot of help. So anybody that can go and is willing to help, please be there this Thursday night, 6 p.m. At that Victorian house. Okay, next item.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
you have questions from the audience?
yes.
I'm just thinking about the whole transportation thing about this event. I mean, there's gonna be
it
2
huge.
zillion people down there, right? I mean, I don't see 2 zillion spots to park, so what's?
They've got that all organized. They've
They
got
do,
some
okay.
areas where they're gonna set up parking. They've got buses, they're gonna shuttle, they've got the whole plan, so that's where you can get all the information. I'm hoping that I can.
Historical place down there?
It's that, yes. Very last building on the right, just before you go up on the bridge. Okay. I'd like to congratulate one of our citizens, Rodney Olsen. He was one of 2 people that was awarded a Citizen Science Award. What it is he is an educator down to the the Hannaford Center, and one of the things that he does is he goes out and tags birds, and they just had this in the paper on Sunday. I saw it and I thought it would deserve recognition to get such an award. It's very nice. So if you see Rodney, tell him congratulations. Now I am looking for sponsors with the cash to help fund some lighting of the falls, which I would like to go from French Heritage Day to Vergennes Day. So if we have anybody out in the community that is willing to kick in some money, I've got a person that I've talked to, and I have a price, but I'd like to get as many sponsors as possible to try to pull that off. We get a lot of people in once they know that that's up on the boats. It's very attractive, and with hopefully the clearing out of that land, it'll even open up the neighborhood a little bit more. And now that we have 3 sets of falls going and flowing, hopefully we don't have a drought, but the state of Vermont requires them to put a certain percentage of water over the falls, so there will be water on the falls. Just to let the council know, if they hadn't heard, Jim Laro had a little issue with his other eye and had emergency surgery on Sunday. So I just ask everybody to keep him in your mind with any of your best wishes and for a healthy and speedy recovery. Yesterday, I had the honor of presenting the owner of Long Trail on the Falls, a key to the city. Michael has been a strong individual supporting both youth and seniors. He tries to get them in shape for the seasons, to make sure that they're in good physical shape. It gives us a little bit of an edge when it comes to competition. We know that they got the stamina. Mike does a lot of other things, organizes different events, fundraisings. He got a tractor trailer truckload of food to go over to Rochester with bag lunches, and the list goes on. And I just thought that it was worth recognition. And I picked that particular day because yesterday was Michael's birthday. So congratulations to Michael. The next council meeting is May 8th. And I just want to remind everybody that we have the zoning and subdivision hearing coming up. So if you haven't started reading, your time is getting shorter. My time is getting shorter. I need to read. So on that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Ziggy made the motion and Randy seconded it. She got her hand up first.
That's okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.